first a student initiative, then one taken from students, including faculty, and now we're going to hover back to one which is slightly more merged, where Stefania here, an architect student, she's going to tell her story, but she took a very strong initiative, and I thought, when I first heard your story, I was very, very impressed, and I'm very happy that you could be here. She took a strong initiative, but very much facilitated and created space by the faculty. So we're very excited to hear that story, and very welcome, Stefania.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. While my colleague puts up the slide, my name is Stefania Dinea. I'm a master's student here at KDH Architecture. I'm also an international KDH blogger and also an NCC practicant at the moment. So I'm doing 3 things at a time. Today I'm going to present a little bit the story about my education and how I got to reach my goals. First of all, I have to mention that I started my education in 2008 in Romania. And in 2011, I decided to quit my architecture studies there and move to Copenhagen. I had a pure goal. I wanted to become an architect. I knew that since I was 14 years old, and I tried to do all possible to reach that goal. So I moved to Copenhagen to study architectural technology and management of construction. Little did I know in the time of my application that that was not architecture, but it was aiming towards the profession of a big nuts engineer. So what was I supposed to do? I stuck to my studies. It helped me a lot, and I was still striving to become an architect. So in my last year there, I started to consider my options. How can I make my dream come true, and how can I reach it, and what are my possible opportunities? I tried to apply at Danish Royal Academy of Fine Arts. Unfortunately, my bachelor education was not enough to get enrolled there for my master's. So I applied at AHO in Oslo, at Lund University, and at KDH. And I planned ahead of time. So I gave myself a year to prepare my portfolio and also complete my bachelor, because one important thing that I learned in my previous education was time management. Things happen. When you have your thesis and you have a part-time job and you try to work towards a goal, you need to plan ahead of time so you have time for surprises. Whether it's you're getting sick, relatives are visiting, stuff always happens that you do not plan for. So you need to take that into consideration. Next step I applied, because you cannot get an opportunity if you don't apply for it. And of course I got accepted into KDH. One thing that struck me at KDH was the number of choices. So in the first week we were presented with 10 studios, and we had the luxury of picking our education road and what are our interests and following it. From this lovely list, only 2 studios were for me. Because the other ones were very much related with my previous education, and I knew information about it. And if you're going to learn something and you're going to spend 2 years in university, you learn something that you don't know anything about, that you're interested, and that can help you further into your career. So because I wanted to somehow compensate for the 2 years that were missing in my life from the education I took in Romania, I decided to focus strongly on competitions. That's one way that you can launch your career as an architect and get ahead. And another thing that I didn't know absolutely nothing about and wanted to develop was parametric design. So these 2 studios offered it. The problem was that if I would have picked the studio for this year, I wouldn't have gotten to do competitions because it would have clashed with my thesis. So therefore, that was the first thing I did. I started to focus on Studio 4, Architecture for Extreme Conditions, with Charlie Gustrom and Ori Meron, because they offered in the second term the chance to participate in a competition. At that time, we didn't know what it was or what it was going to be. So, one advice I have to give to students is that you have to work hard, extremely hard. The time that is written usually in the curriculum of university is not enough. If you want to make a difference and you want to stand out, you have to put in extra work above the schoolwork that you're given. And So I took a seminar also on competitions to figure out what are the factors that I need to take into consideration when faced with this challenge and with this opportunity. And one thing throughout the seminar that got stuck to into my head was listen to your client. That was the main important thing when going into a competition from an architectural point of view, is you need to meet the demands that the client wants. And then step number 7, let your teachers inspire you. One cultural shock I had in Sweden was the fact that, first of all, there's no grading in architecture. You get a pass or you get a fail. That automatically removes the stress. You don't focus, or will I get a 7, or is this a 10, or what did my colleague get? You just focus on your education to do the best that you can. Another thing that our teachers taught us in the first semester was don't be afraid to fail. We were doing some research project on innovation materials in a very short span of time. So we were experimenting and testing, but we didn't have the luxury of a real research project. We were doing it in a short span. They didn't mean that we don't have to put in the work, but they meant it to be flexible about accepting failure. If it turns out great, good for you. If it doesn't, at least you tried and you understood the process. So about actually a year and a half ago, our teachers came and told us that instead of doing the competition as the last project, we would do it as the third project, so at the beginning of the second term, and that they had this great collaboration with NCC to build the Dome of Vision Stockholm 2.0. Because this idea of the Dome of Visions originated in Copenhagen, and NCC wanted to move it to Stockholm and also have a version here. And the best location to have the dome in Stockholm was exactly at KDH on the steps, because it will involve academia, it will involve the public, and also the practice sector. So they sat together, and it was a closed internal competition just for our studio. So therefore, the teachers created this opportunity for us. They fought so we could get this chance and have this opportunity to compete in a real life situation, and something that we could also build. So never lose focus and confidence. I say this because throughout the competition it was challenging. We had to meet different demands, the demands of the academia and the demands of our client, which were totally different. And although I have to say that in the day of the judgment day, when my project was presented to a jury, an architectural jury, it was very harshly criticized. And at that point, I started doubting my decision. Have I made the right choices throughout the competition? Did I pay enough attention? What did I miss? And the second day when the award ceremony was, I wasn't even going to go because I doubted myself so much. I thought there's no chance I could win. And I only went because I said, okay, at least I'll get some photos for my blog of the winner. So when they announced that the Everchange module won, in my head was like, what did I name my project? I couldn't remember at this. I was like staying with the camera and waiting. And I was like looking around if somebody else steps in. I was like, okay, this is mine. Thank you. The amazing prize was the fact that, not that the pavilion was going to be built scale 1-to-1, but the fact that for the next 6 months I would work in a company as an architect and also paid. Very important. And a trip to Copenhagen. So just because I won the competition, I never saw it as an end. I saw it, okay, I got so far, and I'm not going to stay at this level if I don't continue working and improving. So I started working at NCC, and I started learning new things, because when you're in a company, you get to meet different people and ask, like, how do you do this and how do you do that? And as soon as my bosses discovered that I have a thing for virtual design construction, they gave me extra courses on it, and I learned about virtual reality and how it can be implemented in construction, and also the immense focus on sustainability. Before I started working, I was a huge disbeliever. I thought about it as a pamphlet thing, like an advertisement asset. But apparently it can be done, and it can be done well. So that was very important for me. So step 10, set your next goals and repeat. I'm still working at NCC. I'm finishing my studies this June. And I have to make the same process over again. After 10 years, I'm going to reach the goal of becoming an architect, and now I have to think where I want to be in life. Do I want to be in construction? Should I stay into architecture? I have a passion for both, so the decision is going to be extremely hard. So, thank you so much for your attention.
Do we have any questions? Hands up.
Hello. I was wondering, having a real life competition and a real life experience, this design competition, how did that help you in terms of motivation? Was that the thing that drove you, or was it your own drive from the beginning, would you say?
It was my own drive, but I'm a very competitive person by nature. And the most motivating thing about this was the job contract. I mean, as I said, having the building built is one thing, because once you're done with the design, they can build it and it's done. But being able to continually work on it, it has been a dream come true. Because it takes networking to a new step. And I don't know about most students. Some choose to focus on academia. Personally, I will go into practice after I'm done. And in order to get the best job and to get the best companies, you have to be aware there are a lot of students who are working as hard as you. So what difference is between you and them? You always have to think about the fact that you have to be better in something and to be faster. So I always try to push myself to keep ahead.